There comes a moment in every believer's life when silence becomes heavy, when prayers seem unanswered, and your faith begins to whisper, maybe God forgot me. But what if I told you that the pain you're feeling right now is not a sign of God's absence, but His preparation? What if the tears that have been burning your eyes are about to become the very testimony that will open someone else's faith? You see, sometimes God allows your tears not to break you, but to build you. And just when you think He's late, that's when heaven is closest. Stay right here, because before this message ends, you'll understand why your next tears will not be of sorrow, but of divine joy. There are seasons when God hides Himself, not because He's gone, but because He's working behind the curtain of your chaos. The silence you feel is not rejection, it's strategy. Many times, the most painful chapters in your life are the ones heaven is most proud of, because it is there where your faith graduates. When you're crying in the dark, wondering if the promise still stands, that's where God writes your victory in invisible ink. You may not see it now, but your tears are watering the soil of your next breakthrough. In the book of Psalms 56 and 8, it is written, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle." Imagine that. Every tear that fell when no one understood you, every silent prayer whispered into the pillow at night, every disappointment that crushed your spirit, God counted them all. None were wasted. Each one was preserved in the memory of heaven, because every tear tells a story of faith, and faith never dies unnoticed. Sometimes God allows tears to speak when words cannot, because tears have a language the angels understand. They are the proof that something deep inside you is still alive, your hope, your trust, your expectation. You might feel like you're breaking, but God sees it as birthing. Pain has a purpose. Tears have timing, and joy has an appointment. When Joseph cried in the pit, God was shaping a ruler. When Hannah wept bitterly before the altar, heaven was preparing a prophet. When Jesus wept at Lazarus' tomb, it wasn't because of defeat. It was divine compassion preparing for resurrection. Every tear shed by the righteous has an assignment. And when heaven finishes that assignment, those same eyes that cried will one day see the glory they prayed for. The problem is, many believers quit before the transformation. They assume God's silence is punishment, when in truth it's protection. You were crying because you thought you lost something. But God says, "No, I removed it to give you something better." The reason it hurt so deeply is because your heart was still attached to a version of yourself that couldn't carry your destiny. God had to prune your life to make space for what He's sending next. You're not forgotten, you're being refined. Your suffering is not proof of God's distance, it's evidence of His investment. The gold cannot shine until it passes through fire, and the vessel cannot hold glory until it survives the furnace. That's why the Bible says in Psalm 35, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." Notice that it doesn't say joy might come, it says it comes. Morning is a promise, not an option. The night may be long, but the sunrise is guaranteed. Some of you are standing in a night season right now. Your mind is tired. Your spirit feels stretched. You've prayed, fasted, believed, and still nothing looks different. But can I tell you something? The closer you are to your blessing, the heavier the burden feels. Labor pains increase right before birth. The darkness you're in isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new dawn. Heaven never wastes pain. Every tear you've cried has been counted as currency for the joy that's coming. God's process often hides itself in paradoxes. He lets you experience loss before He releases abundance. He lets you walk alone so that when people see your victory, they'll know it wasn't by human help. He closes one door so that you'll stop knocking on it and notice the one that was always open. You thought your tears were breaking you down, but God was using them to clear your vision. Because sometimes the water from your eyes is needed to wash away the things that cloud your sight. Your next season is going to make sense of every sleepless night. God doesn't forget covenant keepers. He doesn't abandon those who trusted Him when nothing made sense. If you could only see what He's preparing right now, you'd understand why He took you through the valley. Because some victories are too heavy for weak faith to carry. That's why He's been strengthening your spirit through suffering, so that when joy finally comes, you'll have the capacity to hold it. The story of your tears is sacred. They were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to anoint you. In 1 Samuel 1, Hannah's tears looked like agony to others, but to God they sounded like prophecy. While she wept, heaven was writing the name of Samuel. When she cried, she wasn't just releasing pain, she was birthing a promise. Sometimes God allows your tears to travel faster than your words, because He knows that tears flow straight from the heart. You may not know it, but there's a sound in your tears that shakes heaven. Each drop carries a message. I still believe. I still trust. I'm still holding on. And when heaven hears that cry, the angels begin to move, because the language of faith is not always loud. Sometimes it's the silent sob that reaches the throne faster than 1,000 words. Your story is not ending in sorrow. It's transforming into testimony. What you thought was your breaking point will soon be revealed as your birthing point. God has seen the injustice. He's seen the betrayal. He's seen the rejection. He's seen the long nights when no one checked on you. And He's been quietly writing redemption into your future. The same hands that counted your tears are preparing to crown you with joy. Isaiah 6:1-3 declares that God will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. That means every area of pain in your life has a divine exchange waiting. Your mourning will not remain. He will transform it. But transformation requires surrender. God cannot heal what you hide. So the moment you release your pain back into His hands, He begins to rewrite the ending. Right now, while you're waiting, God is setting a table for you in the presence of your enemies. They saw your tears, but soon they'll see your testimony. They'll watch you walk into rooms you once prayed for. They'll see doors open that were once locked in your face. The same people who questioned your faith will soon witness your favor. Because God never wastes a wounded heart. Every wound that you've endured is an entry point for His glory to shine through. And when He finally brings you into that new place, you'll understand that the delay was not denial. It was divine direction. You were crying because you thought He said no, but He was actually saying, not yet. He was waiting for the right season, the right people, the right conditions to release your blessing. You see, premature blessings can become heavy burdens. That's why He waited, because your future was worth the wait. Even Jesus, the Son of God, had to endure pain before glory. The cross came before the crown. The tears of Gethsemane came before the triumph of resurrection. That's the divine pattern of heaven. Suffering always precedes strength. Your cross may be heavy, but it's producing resurrection power in you. You can't have a crown without a cross. You can't have joy without tears. But the joy that comes after will be so overwhelming that you'll forget the pain that preceded it. When you look back later, you'll say, it was good that I was afflicted, because now I see what God was doing. The very tears you cried in confusion will become tears of worship when revelation comes. Because God always finishes what He starts. He doesn't waste pain. He transforms it into purpose. And that's what He's about to do in your life. You see, God is never in a hurry, but He is always on time. His delays are not His denials, they are His designs. He holds your tears in His timing, and when He chooses to release His hand, everything will change in a moment. The same tears that once fell out of sorrow will fall again. But this time they'll fall because of joy so overwhelming, so divine, so unexpected, that you'll realize every painful night was worth it. Because heaven always pays back with interest. God never just restores, He multiplies. When He gives joy, He gives it pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That's the nature of divine compensation. There are tears that come from pain, and there are tears that come from power. When God begins to move in your life, He doesn't simply erase what happened. He redeems it. He uses the broken pieces of your story to build the foundation of your victory. He takes what was meant to destroy you and turns it into a demonstration of His faithfulness. That's why the enemy fights you hardest before your breakthrough. Because he knows what's coming next will silence his lies forever. Some people see your tears and think you're weak. But tears are not weakness. They're proof that you still believe something beautiful can come from your situation. The hardest battles are fought by those who carry the greatest purpose. The heaviest tears fall from the eyes of those whom God trusts with transformation. When He wants to birth something new in the earth, He doesn't look for the comfortable. He looks for the broken, the surrendered, the ones who still lift their hands even when they're bleeding. And when you reach that place, when your faith stands even when your strength fails, He steps in. God doesn't show up when you're strong. He shows up when you can't go another step without Him. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians 12:9, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. That means when you feel like you've reached your end, heaven is just beginning. Your weakness is not your end. It's God's invitation to display His power through you. Every tear you've cried has watered a seed of destiny. You've been planting through pain, but harvest is coming through hope. You thought you were crying over loss, but you were actually watering the roots of your next blessing. The reason it took so long is because the seed had to die before it could grow. The process may have been hidden, but the fruit will be visible. God hides growth in darkness, just like a seed in the soil, because transformation happens away from public eyes. And when He finally brings it to light, it's undeniable. Don't despise your tears. They are sacred ink on the pages of your destiny. When you cried and thought no one heard, heaven leaned closer. The Spirit of God interceded for you with groanings too deep for words. While the world saw your pain, God saw your perseverance. While people judged your struggle, heaven documented your faith. Every moment you chose to trust instead of curse, to worship instead of worry, was recorded in eternity. And one day you will see the full picture of why it all had to happen the way it did. God never allows His children to weep without purpose. Even in your most broken hour, His hand has been guiding your steps. Sometimes He lets you cry not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants to cleanse your spirit of everything that doesn't belong to your next season. Tears are holy purifiers. They wash away pride, fear, and doubt. They prepare your heart to receive joy with humility, because true joy can only live in a heart that has been emptied of self and filled with surrender. There's a depth of relationship with God that can only be found through tears. When everything is stripped away, when you have no words left, no plan left, no strength left, that's where revelation happens. That's where you discover that God is not just a provider, He is your portion. He's not just a healer, He's your wholeness. He's not just a rescuer, He's your reason to live. And in that place of intimacy, you stop asking, why me? And start saying, thank you for trusting me. Because the same tears that broke you are now teaching you how to worship. The Bible tells us that those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. That means every season of sorrow carries the DNA of celebration. The harvest may not appear when you want it, but it's already scheduled in heaven's calendar. The same field you watered with tears will one day produce laughter. The same floor where you fell in despair will one day become the altar of your praise. God doesn't need to change the place. He changes the purpose. He turns your pit into a platform, your pain into a prophecy, your suffering into a story of grace. The truth is, if you never cried, you would never have learned to trust Him this deeply. If everything worked easily, your faith would have remained shallow. God uses your pain as a classroom to teach you the language of dependence. And dependence is the birthplace of miracles. When you no longer rely on your own understanding, when you let go of your timing and your control, heaven begins to move in ways you could never orchestrate. The tears you shed were not in vain. They were the tuition for your next dimension of faith. Look at Job. He lost everything: family, wealth, reputation. He cried until his soul was weary. But God never left him. He was silent for a season, but not absent. And when the time came, He restored Job double for all he lost. That's divine justice. God doesn't just give back. He multiplies what was stolen. The same will happen for you. The more intense the sorrow, the greater the restoration. The deeper the valley, the higher the mountain of glory. Because the God who counted your tears is faithful to turn them into treasures. You may not realize it, but even now your tears are testifying. They are saying, I still believe even though I don't understand. And God rewards that kind of faith. He is drawn to brokenness. Psalm 34:18 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. When your heart is breaking, heaven bends low. You're never closer to His heart than when yours is shattered. Because only a broken heart can fully receive divine love. And when He restores you, you won't even remember the pain the same way. It won't define you anymore, it will refine you. You'll look back not with bitterness, but with gratitude. You'll say, if it hadn't been for those tears, I would have never discovered who God truly is. That's how God works. He turns your wounds into wisdom. Every tear becomes a teacher. Every heartbreak becomes a doorway into a deeper revelation of His nature. Sometimes, God allows you to cry because He's detoxing your soul from what you thought you needed. You were attached to things, people, plans that couldn't carry you into your destiny. So, He let them fall apart, not to hurt you, but to heal you. It hurt because you didn't see the danger. But He did. He knew that if you stayed where you were, you'd miss what He had for you. So, He broke what was temporary to reveal what was eternal. That's divine love in disguise. And now, you're being prepared for the kind of joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. The kind that flows from peace with God, not from possessions or people. When that joy comes, it will fill you so completely that you'll forget the pain of waiting. You'll weep again, but not from heartbreak, from holy gratitude. You'll stand in awe of how God turned the mess into meaning, the tears into triumph, the waiting into worship. Sometimes God lets you cry until there's nothing left, just to show you that He's enough. Because when your tears run dry, His grace overflows. When you have no words, the Spirit Himself begins to intercede through you. That's when the shift happens, the invisible, quiet turning of the season. You may not feel it yet, but heaven is already rearranging things in your favor. Doors are aligning, hearts are softening, miracles are forming. All because you didn't give up in the weeping season. Your next tears will come from laughter that doesn't make sense, from blessings you didn't see coming, from peace that surpasses understanding, from answered prayers that once felt forgotten. God's restoration is never partial, it's full, overflowing, and undeniable. When He moves, even your enemies will have to admit that it was Him. The same mouths that spoke against you will witness your rising. And the glory that comes after this will silence every doubt you ever had. You've cried long enough, you've carried the weight long enough, you've endured the silence long enough. Now heaven is saying, get ready, because divine reversal is in motion. What was meant for evil is turning for your good. The places you wept will soon be filled with worship. The nights you spent alone will soon be replaced with testimonies of divine companionship. The prayers you thought were buried are about to bloom right before your eyes. God has been preparing something so beautiful that it required tears to shape your character. He wasn't punishing you. He was perfecting you. Every drop of sorrow was molding you into someone capable of carrying the weight of joy without pride. Because joy without humility becomes arrogance. But when you've been through the fire, you carry joy with grace. You walk softly because you know what it cost you. And that's the beauty of divine timing. It doesn't just change your situation, it changes you. The person who will rejoice in the next season is not the same person who wept in the last one. You've grown, you've matured. You've learned to listen more, to trust deeper, to see God in the unseen. That's why He allowed the tears, because He wasn't just changing your circumstances, He was changing your heart. There's a transformation happening even now. You may still feel the residue of pain, but deep within, something new is emerging. Hope is rising again. Strength is returning. The Spirit of God is breathing fresh peace into places that were once filled with despair. Soon, you'll realize that your tears were not a sign of weakness, but evidence that your soul was still alive. Because as long as you can cry, you can heal. And as long as you can heal, you can rise again. Your story isn't over. The tears that once symbolized loss will soon represent life. The weeping that once felt endless will soon give birth to endless gratitude. God's promise is not far, it's near, closer than the breath you're breathing right now. And when it comes, it will come suddenly, unmistakably, beautifully. You'll find yourself standing in the middle of the very thing you once prayed for, realizing that every tear you shed was a step toward destiny. Your next tears will not come from the same place as before. They'll flow from joy so divine that words will fail. You'll cry again, but this time heaven will echo your laughter. Because God never leaves His children in sorrow. He always finishes what He starts. When God completes His work in you, it won't look like what you expected. It will be infinitely better. The pain that once threatened to destroy you will become the very evidence that God was present in your story all along. You'll see that He was never absent, never unaware, never careless with your heart. Every tear you cried was part of His divine arithmetic. He added them up, multiplied their meaning, and turned them into blessings beyond measure. The same tears that once fell from grief will one day fall again, but they will roll down your face as tears of awe. Tears that say, God, you really did it. You will begin to understand why He let some doors close, why He let some people walk away, why certain seasons had to end. He wasn't withholding joy. He was protecting it. He was saving it for a time when your heart could truly handle it. Some blessings are too holy to be received by unready hands. So God waited. He refined your patience, deepened your worship, and stretched your faith until it could contain the fullness of what He was preparing. That's why He allowed your tears. They weren't punishment, they were preparation. The greatest revelations of God are born in the quiet places of brokenness. When the crowd disappears, when the applause fades, when you have no one left to impress, that's where you meet the God who comforts, not the God who performs. That's where He whispers your name again and reminds you that you are still chosen, still called, still loved beyond measure. And when that truth takes root in your heart, the weight of the past begins to lift. Because you realize it was never about what you lost, it was always about what you were becoming. Every tear was a training ground for greater glory. You learned to pray differently. You learned to listen instead of argue. You learned to trust God even when your plans shattered in your hands. That's what maturity in the Spirit looks like. You start to recognize that peace is not found in the absence of pain, but in the presence of God within it. You discover that joy is not laughter without tears. It's laughter through them. And that's the joy He's preparing for you right now. The same hands that molded you through suffering are now positioning you for overflow. You are about to experience what it feels like to walk into answered prayers. You won't have to chase them. They will find you. You won't have to fight for validation. God Himself will affirm you before those who once doubted you. Because when God restores, He doesn't just return what was taken, He gives it back in divine proportion. He adds grace to it. He adds peace to it. He adds joy that humbles you every time you remember where you came from. And when the moment comes, when God turns the page, you'll cry again, but those tears will sound different. They won't come from confusion or despair. They'll come from a heart that remembers the pit but now lives in the promise. You'll lift your hands and say, I didn't understand it then, but now I see that every tear had purpose. You'll thank Him not only for what He gave you, but for what He withheld, because you'll realize that unanswered prayers were actually divine protection in disguise. The scripture says in Revelation 21:4, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying. This is not just a future promise for eternity, it's a reflection of His nature now. God doesn't just watch you cry, He leans down and wipes those tears Himself. His love is not distant, it's intimate. He walks with you through the valley, and when He brings you out, He leaves no trace of sorrow on you. That's the beauty of divine restoration. When He's done, no one can tell how broken you once were. And maybe that's what this whole journey was about. Maybe God wanted to show you that He can make beauty out of ashes so perfectly that people will wonder if you were ever burned. You'll smile again, not because life is perfect, but because grace has filled the cracks. You'll dance again, not because the pain never existed, but because it no longer defines you. And those who once saw you cry will now see you glow, because the same eyes that wept in the night will shine in the morning. You see, joy is not something you buy, it's something you become. It's born from gratitude, from awareness of God's faithfulness. When you realize that He never left you, not even for a second, joy starts to flow like a river through your soul. You won't need reasons to be happy, His presence will be enough. Because when your heart has tasted divine comfort, nothing in this world can steal your peace again. So don't despise the season of tears. Thank God for it. Because if you hadn't been broken, you wouldn't have been rebuilt in His image. If you hadn't been emptied, you wouldn't have been filled with His Spirit. If you hadn't cried, you wouldn't know the power of divine comfort. What was meant to bury you has only planted you deeper in faith. And soon what was buried will bloom. When God brings you into your next season, everything that once hurt you will make sense. You'll see how every closed door redirected you, how every betrayal protected you, how every disappointment refined you. The map of your pain will reveal the masterpiece of His mercy. And your heart will overflow, not with regret, but with reverence. You'll say, Lord, you never left me. Even in my darkest hour, you were there. And heaven will echo, yes, child, I was there collecting your tears, turning them into joy. You'll begin to live with a softness toward others too. Because once you've cried enough, you stop judging other people's tears. You understand their pain. You carry compassion instead of pride. You become a vessel of empathy, a walking reminder that God heals the brokenhearted. And when you speak, your words will carry power, not because they're eloquent, but because they're real. They'll come from a place that has been touched by God. And those who hear you will feel the same comfort that once lifted you. This is what it means to be transformed by tears. It's not just about survival. It's about rebirth. God is not giving you back the same life you had before. He's giving you a higher one. He's expanding your capacity to love, to believe, to forgive, to hope. The joy that's coming will not just change your mood. It will change your mission. You'll start to see your life not as a series of struggles, but as a story of redemption written by a faithful God. The psalmist said, "They that sow in tears shall reap in joy." That means the same hands that planted with pain will harvest with praise. The same eyes that wept will witness wonders. The same voice that cried out in fear will sing songs of thanksgiving. It's all connected, the pain, the process, and the promise. God has been weaving them together in perfect timing. And when the curtain lifts, the beauty of the full picture will take your breath away. One day soon, the memories that once brought you to tears will bring you to worship. You'll tell your story and others will find hope in it. You'll say, "I cried, but look what God did." And in that moment, you'll realize that the tears weren't just for you. They were for someone else too. God was building a testimony through you that would ignite faith in others who feel forgotten. That's why He didn't remove the storm. He used it to show others His light through you. And as you live in that new joy, you'll become unshakable. Not because life will never test you again, but because you'll know who holds your peace. You'll walk through future storms with calm confidence, remembering that you once thought you'd drown, but God taught you to walk on water. You'll carry that peace into every battle, and your presence will shift atmospheres because it will carry the fragrance of divine joy. The enemy tried to break you, but instead, you were built stronger. He tried to make you silent, but now your voice carries authority. He tried to make you doubt God, but now your faith has roots that can't be shaken. You've been through too much not to believe. You've seen too many mercies not to trust. You've felt too much grace not to rejoice. When your new season arrives, it will be marked by laughter that surprises you. You'll wake up one morning and realize that the heaviness is gone. You'll feel light again, free again, whole again. And you'll cry, but this time those tears will taste different. They'll taste like healing, like peace, like freedom. You'll stand in your blessing and think, "How did I ever doubt Him?" And heaven will smile, because this was the moment God promised you long ago. The moment when your weeping would turn into worship. Yes, there were nights when you almost gave up. There were days when you couldn't see the purpose. But now, as you look around and see how everything has come together, you'll know that it was all part of His plan. Every heartbreak made space for His love. Every delay preserved your destiny. Every loss opened the door to greater life. The tapestry of your journey is perfect because the weaver never made a mistake. The same God who collected your tears is now pouring joy back into your soul. He's reminding you that He finishes what He begins. He doesn't leave promises half fulfilled. He doesn't abandon the work of His hands. You are His masterpiece in progress, and now the season of sorrow has reached its holy conclusion. It's time for laughter to rise from your spirit again. And when it does, let it rise freely. Don't hold it back. Let your tears fall again. This time, not from pain, but from pure, overflowing gratitude. Because the God who watched you cry in the midnight hour is the same God who will dance with you in the morning light. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't failed you. He was faithful all along. And now your soul will testify that every tear had purpose, every prayer had power, and every waiting moment was worth it. So wipe your eyes, but not because the tears were wasted, because their mission is complete. The night is over. The dawn has come. And as you step into this new chapter, remember, those who sowed in tears are destined to reap in joy. You are one of them. The time has come. The weeping has ended. The joy is here. Your next tears will be tears of joy.